It's 22:40 on the 26th of September 2025. Over the Persian Gulf, the night sky flashes white as U.S. bombers streak toward Iranian targets under Operation Sentinel Strike. The USS Ronald Reagan carrier strike group hums at alert decks lit red, radar sweeping, growlers warming on the cat. Then the screens twitch, faint echoes riding sidebands that don't belong. The EW officer freezes, hand on the headset. The pattern matches low probability of intercept waveforms used by U.S. stealth aircraft. Somewhere beyond the horizon, a Chinese Type 815G intelligence ship drifts with its lantern of antennas open to the dark. Far above, Yaogan satellites roll to catch the angle. Tankers arc fuel. B-2 slip black into the weather, and every whisper of radar scatters into the night. America is focused forward on Iran, yet a second audience is recording the show, frame by frame, and beaming it east toward the next fight. In CIC, a petty officer traces bearing and speed. The room holds its breath. The strike over Iran isn't just another mission, it's a signal sent under pressure. In the Persian Gulf, tankers and box ships move through lanes that power daily life back home. The USS Ronald Reagan carrier strike group stands between those routes and chaos. If these lanes choke, gas jumps, shelves thin, and allies wonder if the U.S. can still keep the sea open. Tonight, bombers, tankers, and jammers fly in tight rhythm. It looks local. It isn't. Beijing watches. The Chinese Type 815G and Yaogan eyes collect how U.S. stealth behaves when the pressure is real. How often jets talk, how radars search, how escorts time their moves. Each captured whisper becomes code in a lab. New radar settings, better software, smarter jamming. What slips from the Gulf flies east into planning rooms that study the South China Sea. The lesson is simple and dangerous. The next time U.S. stealth shows up near disputed reefs, China wants fewer surprises. U.S. commanders see the chain too. They know one night of data can shave years off an opponent's learning curve. So the carrier group changes patterns, trims emissions, moves refuelers, and forces the spy ship to guess. Small choices matter at sea. A quiet radio now can save lives later. The goal is to finish the Iran mission and deny clean reads to the watchers. This is where the stakes become personal. Sailors think of families while making decisions that ripple across oceans. If you were in the chair seeing an opponent learn from your every move, would you strike first or hold the line? Drop 1 inch the comments to hit first, 9 to wait and watch, and subscribe so you won't miss how this rivalry jumps from the Gulf to the South China Sea. 22:48. 8 minutes since the first bombs hit Iran. The sky over the Gulf burns in orange. Flashes, missiles streaking low, refueling lines tight, comms clipped and coded. On the USS Ronald Reagan, alarms echo down red-lit corridors. Radar screens flicker 2 faint returns at the edge of range. Not Iranian, not civilian, too deliberate. The electronic warfare officer filters the signal. Rapid frequency hops across narrow bands, exactly how Chinese surveillance ships mass collection. The captain's voice cuts through. Track them. No illumination. Lighting up would give away the carrier's radar frequencies. Silence is safer. A KC-135 tanker reports 5 seconds of interference radar blinded, comms filled with static. EA-18G growlers launch into the humid dark, their jamming pods spreading electronic fog to blur the task force's outline. Each pulse turns Beijing's clean data into noise. Then another blip bearing 310, range 47 miles. The Type 815G has crept closer, sliding beneath a rainfront to hide from satellites. Its antennas spin wide, drinking reflections from stealth bombers high above. Yaogan satellites tilt for the glow. Every signal leaving this sky travels halfway around the world in seconds. The Ronald Reagan answers with calm precision. Sensors narrow, emissions trimmed, flight paths altered. An MQ-25 drone lifts from deck, vanishing into cloud to shadow the intruder. Its infrared feed shows the ship's wet hull, and rotating dishes proof the watchers are close. Inside Combat Information Center, operators whisper over green arcs. They know this mission isn't just about Iran anymore. The Gulf has become rehearsal data for the next battlefield, the South China Sea. On the flight deck, rain sweeps through exhaust heat, turning night to mist. Below, ordnance crews lock down rails and wait. In flag plot, a liaison draws a thin line from the Gulf to the Spratlys, circling two words: timing windows. If Beijing learns that rhythm, when to refuel, when to go dark, the next war begins with fewer surprises. The captain exhales, orders 2 degrees starboard. Metal groans, the carrier turns. The formation shifts, tight and silent, as the unseen duel continues. 23:4. The storm deepens over the Gulf. Warm rain hammers the deck as the USS Ronald Reagan cuts through black water. Inside, every console hums, screens flicker, voices tight with focus. No missiles inbound, yet the crew feels the weight of contact. The Type 815G lurks 40 miles off, its sensor masts angled toward the carrier like spears in the dark. Growlers orbit high, their pods thundering in rhythmic pulses. Each burst is defiance, smearing the picture the watchers want. But the Chinese ship adapts. Its arrays narrow, beams sharpen, side lobes vanish. Data still flows. Far away, analysts in Beijing stitch fragments into patterns. Tanker altitudes, refuel timing, radio rhythm under stress. They're learning how America fights. The captain reshapes the board. Escorts widen, destroyers slide to block line of sight. A cruiser drifts to absorb radar glare. KC-135 climb higher to twist geometry. Keep emissions minimal, he orders. The sea answers with thunder. A spike flashes on the EW scope, a stealth bomber's radar cross-section flares. Maybe rain, maybe a narrow beam from the 815G? The EW chief floods new jamming frequencies, turning the sky to white static. Links waver, then stabilize. No one cheers. Close calls are lessons for the enemy. In Combat Information Center, sweat beads on brows, hands hover over switches, eyes locked on scopes. The mission over Iran still runs, but the real battle now is for secrecy. Every clean byte stolen here becomes tomorrow's countermeasure. The task force isn't just protecting ships, it's guarding the edge of the unknown. The Chinese ship refuses to break off. It drifts parallel, patient, feeding its harvest east. A sailor mutters, "They're testing us." The watch officer replies, "No, they're rehearsing." Rain thickens, flight deck glistens, launch crews move under slick hoods. An MQ-25 rises through the clouds to keep eyes on the intruder. Below, engineers trim systems, cutting stray signals. Small choices echo loud at sea. Silence now buys safety later. If you were watching this silent duel, two powers trading moves without firing a shot, would you strike to end it? Or stay quiet to win the long game? Drop 1 to hit back, 9 to hold the line. 23-21. The storm begins to thin, but the tension doesn't. The Type 815G stops moving. Its engines idle, antenna arrays motionless too, still for comfort. On the USS Ronald Reagan, the crew senses a change. The silence feels heavier than noise. The EW chief adjusts gain and catches something faint, a tight pulsing signal buried under static, not from the ship, from above. Yaogan satellites are retasking. A cluster drifts directly overhead, beams converging on the fleet. Within seconds, the Reagan's radar picks up reflections from high-altitude tiny drones launched from the Chinese vessel, each no bigger than a gull. They aren't armed. They're mirrors, built to bounce radar energy back to orbit, creating a three-dimensional map of U.S. stealth emissions. The spy ship has turned the storm itself into a scanner. "They're painting us through the weather," the EW chief warns. The captain doesn't hesitate. "Deploy counter-reflectors." Launch another growler. Metal shutters snap open, scattering chaff and decoy flares into the rain. Growlers roar skyward, their jammers tearing into the storm's static. The ship's sensors spike, then flatten data lost in the noise. On screens in Beijing, the feed stutters, blurs, and dies. But the damage may already be done. Somewhere in that brief window, China may have captured the radar fingerprint of America's stealth force. The question isn't if they saw, it's how much. In CIC, the captain studies the blank scope. The enemy hadn't fired a single shot, yet somehow drew blood. The rain outside fades to mist, but nobody exhales. The crew knows this was more than a probe. It was rehearsal. The next time, there won't be just drones in the storm, there will be missiles. 2337. The clouds tear open. Lightning flashes reveal silhouettes, dark shapes skimming just above the waves. Not birds, not debris. 6 small drones racing straight toward the Ronald Reagan at low altitude. The bridge erupts in commands. Contact! Bearing 285, range 12 miles. The captain doesn't ask who sent them. Everyone already knows. CIWS turrets rotate, sensors lock. The first drone explodes under a storm of tracers. Another splits apart mid-air. But 4 remain, weaving through rain and chaff. Each one carries a dish antenna, not warheads, hunters for radar signatures. Closing fast. EA-18G Growlers dive low, their jammers blaring full power. The sky turns electric. The fleet's radar picture dissolves into static, but the captain doesn't flinch. He calls for blackout mode, no transmissions, no emissions, full silence. The storm swallows them whole. Below decks, engineers reroute power. The carrier runs dark for the first time in years. On deck, sailors crouch under the pounding rain, watching the last 2 drones vanish into cloud. Seconds stretch. Then impact flashes on the horizon. A cruiser CIWS fires, shredding both targets before they reach the carrier. The shockwave rolls across the sea, thunder mixing with gunfire. For a heartbeat, there's quiet. Then new contacts bloom on radar, high-altitude reflections, satellite pings shifting east. Beijing is calling its eyes home. The intruders are gone, but their mission is complete. Somewhere in a control room across the world, Chinese officers analyze the final bursts of data. The Ronald Reagan steadies in the rolling waves. The captain stares at the horizon, water streaming off his coat. The crew has no cheers left, only questions. If data can cross oceans faster than bullets, what does safe distance even mean now? Above, lightning forks across the black sky, and for a moment the sea glows white. The U.S. fleet has survived the night, but the shadow war is only beginning. If you were in command, would you strike first before the next shadow appears? Or wait for proof and risk another storm? Tap 1 to hit first, 9 to hold the line and stay with us as this Cold War turns hot. 012. The storm has passed, the sea lies calm again, but the night feels heavier than before. On the USS Ronald Reagan, deck lights glow dim amber as crews move in silence, checking systems, counting fuel, scanning for anything left behind. The sky above is empty now. No drones, no signals, just the hum of turbines and the hiss of rain against steel. Word spreads through the fleet. The data intercept is over. The Chinese Type 815G is gone, sailing east with its antennas folded. Mission complete. Somewhere, far across the ocean, analysts are replaying every frame, every flicker of U.S. radar they managed to catch. The crew knows what that means. The next time, China won't just watch, they'll act. In Washington, satellite feeds confirm what everyone suspected. The Yaogan constellation shifted back toward the South China Sea within hours. Intelligence analysts mark it as repositioning for potential maritime escalation. The Pentagon's reaction is swift. Orders go out to redeploy carriers west, increase patrols, and harden communications. The quiet rivalry over the Gulf has officially moved to Asia. Aboard the Ronald Reagan, fatigue sets in, but the mission isn't done. Engineers pull data logs. EW crews review every jam and pulse, trying to see what the enemy might have learned. The captain signs his report. No losses, no shots fired, but compromise possible. That single line will ripple through command briefings for weeks. Dawn creeps across the horizon, soft light touching a sea that looks peaceful, but every sailor knows it's just the pause between storms. They've seen the new battlefield, invisible, instant, and global. The next fight won't wait for missiles. It will start with data. The captain looks east, toward the South China Sea, and mutters, "Round 2's already loading." The camera lingers on the waves, calm but waiting. If you believe this silent clash will decide the next real war, drop 1 to stand with the fleet. 9 if you think diplomacy still has time, and subscribe, because the next storm is already rising. It's dawn on the 22nd of July 2025. Off Queensland in the Western Pacific, the carrier USS George Washington suddenly picks up multiple unknown tracks. The CIC erupts with alarms, screens glowing red, warning tones overlapping. Sailors rush to battle stations, strapping into consoles, securing hatches, weapons crews swinging turrets into position. Outside, the massive deck rumbles as F-35 stealth jets line up for launch, engines screaming. Overhead, the sky is blue and empty. Every radar ping means danger. A P-8 amperes patrol jet calls in. A Type 815 spy ship is shadowing the group, streaming data shoreward. Then a sharp update, new emitters flare along the chain. A Type 055 to the north, coastal batteries farther west. Radios crackle, missile inbound, multiple vectors. The captain orders MCON shifts and a tighter screen. Growler jammers spin up to blur the picture. Aegis scopes fill with symbols. Flight deck teams snap into rhythm, catapults armed, shooters signaling, blast deflectors up. The exercise just turned real. The next minutes decide if this strike group holds the line or gets torn apart at sea. In the Western Pacific, cargo ships move day and night through lanes that keep daily life running back home. These routes carry oil, grain, electronics, and chips, $5.3 trillion in trade every year. If the sea closes, gas prices jump, shelves go empty, and factories slow. That's why the carrier USS George Washington and her escorts patrol here, standing watch over the arteries of global commerce. For China, this is more than water. It's a front line in their anti-access strategy. Type 815 spy ships beam intelligence back to mainland bases. Type 055 destroyers and DF-21D divided by DF-26 missiles threaten carriers from far beyond the horizon. Each move signals Beijing's intent: keep US and allies out, prove the Pacific is their sphere. Their crews practice emissions control, staying quiet while collecting a flood of data. Silence is their camouflage. For Washington and partners like Australia, Japan, and the UK, the message must be the opposite: freedom of navigation, freedom of trade, and alliance unity. Losing credibility here doesn't just shake one mission, it shakes trust across Asia. Allies watch every move. ASEAN debates tilt one way or another. Insurance rates climb the moment a warning shot echoes. The stakes are global, even before the first missile flies. Now the two sides test each other in real time. Stealth jets versus tracking radars, growler jammers versus missile batteries, silent submarines versus listening posts. One side pushes to control the lanes, the other to keep them open. Every mile of ocean is a vote on who sets the rules, and mistakes ripple through markets and capitals alike. Who do you think holds the advantage, American carriers or Chinese missiles? Drop a 1 if you believe the carrier strike group still rules these seas, or 9 if you think the missile net already tips the balance. 7:12 local time. The radar picture sharpens. Multiple missile signatures arcing in from the west. The call goes out: Vampires inbound, bearing 210, range 150 nautical miles. Every second counts. The commander orders the first layer of defense. Aegis radars lock, and SM-6 interceptors roar skyward. Their job: kill threats early, far from the carrier. White plumes slice the sky, then vanish into the clouds. Moments later, distant flashes mark impacts, some targets destroyed, others slipping through. "Track 07 still hot," shouts a controller. That's when the EA-18 grams growlers push in. Their jamming pods light up, flooding enemy radars with noise. The idea is simple: blind launch systems, confuse guidance, buy time. F-35 seconds dart above. Stealth profiles giving them a clean shot at the radar ships coordinating the attack. Each piece of the network has to play in sync. But the wave is bigger than expected. 10 inbound become 12. The next volley appears just as the first detonations fade. Missile crews reload, hands moving fast under pressure. The ship rocks as launchers cough out another salvo. The horizon glows and bursts, a deadly light show where success means survival. Australian frigates on the flank add their missiles, creating a shield wall. Link 1-6 binds the formation into one picture, reducing gaps, covering angles. Still, no one knows how many leakers will survive the gauntlet. "Hold fast," the captain calls, voice calm but tight. Every operator in the CIC knows, if even one missile gets through, it could be the end of the carrier. Below, the submarine USS Illinois shadows the threat axis, mapping bearings and engine notes. She whispers contacts into the link, marking shooters for a simulated counterstrike if the order comes. The quiet hunt below buys options above. Explosions ripple across the sky. Some intercepts succeed, some fail. Wreckage rains into the sea, geysers rising high. But through the chaos, red icons remain on the screens. The battle is only beginning, and the enemy shows no sign of slowing. If you were in that command seat, would you trust the interceptors or believe sheer missile numbers win the day? Tap 1 if you think the layer defense still holds, or 9 if you believe saturation fire breaks any shield. And don't forget to hit subscribe so you don't miss the next strike. 7:19 local time. The first missiles have been cut down, but fresh icons light the scope. This second wave is faster, lower, and closing in. Controllers count them out. Multiple supersonic, bearing 180, range 60 nautical miles. The room tenses. These are YJ-12 class sea skimmers. Harder to hit, harder to see. The first interceptors leap off the rails, but several slip through the curtain. Red tracks streak closer. The captain orders a course change 5 degrees starboard. A small shift, but it narrows the carrier's profile and forces the attackers into a tighter approach. Every second gained is precious. Growlers punch out more jamming, static crackling across the ether. Australian frigates fire again, their decks shaking with the launch. Guns swivel on mounts, barrels hot from constant tracking. Sailors brace as the horizon flashes, each explosion a gamble. Some missiles shatter mid-air, others dive lower, hugging the waves. "Close range in 90 seconds, the CIC shouts. The ship tilts harder, throwing spray across the bow. F-35 seconds roar overhead, trying to thin the herd before it gets lethal. Below, sonar marks another launch site, hinting at yet another wave inbound. The battle is no longer distant, it's rushing right at the hull. Every operator feels the weight. The Aegis system tracks, computers calculating firing arcs in split seconds. Missile after missile slams into the sky, but the enemy's saturation tactics are working. For every kill, another slips the net. The wall is cracking. "Stand by, Sis!" a voice cuts the noise. Sailors man the last line rapid. Fire cannons that only work when threats are already on top of them. Fingers tighten on triggers, eyes glued to scopes. If the missile swarm breaks through this line, nothing stands between steel and fire. The sea becomes a battlefield of splashes, contrails, and shockwaves. Each boom shakes the deck. Each geyser a reminder that survival hangs on fractions of a second. The carrier group is still intact, but the margin is razor thin. And everyone knows the next minute could be the difference between history and tragedy. Do you think sheer firepower can stop this wave? Or will speed and numbers overwhelm the defenses? Smash 1 if you're betting on the carrier group's guns, or 9 if you believe the missiles break through. 7:27 local time. Just as the crew steadies, the twist hits. The Type 815 spy ship stops shadowing, starts blasting. Powerful signals flood the spectrum, forcing US radars into protective shutdown. Scopes flicker. Operators go half blind. "Switch to passive sensors," the captain snaps. Sailors reroute to backups, hunting for bearings without pings. With no active radar, tracking turns to guesswork. Threats may already be inbound, unseen. Growlers answer, carving lanes of signal through the noise. F-35 seconds. Fuse stealth sensors and whisper data into the net. Second stretch. Timing intercepts now feels like swinging in the dark. Across the formation, Link 1-6 lags and icons jump. Australian controllers fall back to voice nets, calling bearings the old way. AP-8 amperes orbits at standoff range, sketching the jammer and relaying cues, but latency eats precious seconds. The group peeks into MCON just long enough to shoot, then ducks back under the noise risk traded for survival. Red icons return late. The bubble shrinks. Time to impact, 45 seconds. The carrier heels hard, green water blasting across the bow. Survival outranks pride. Below, USS Illinois listens, plotting shooters by engine note and bearing. The ocean becomes both screen and trap, masking friends while hiding threats. Lesson learned. China isn't only missiles. It's electronic warfare that cuts the nerves of US defense. In modern combat, the side that holds the spectrum holds the fight. Who wins under this blackout US crews adapting on the fly or Chinese jammers sealing the door? Press 1 if the carrier group holds, 9 if the jamming tips the balance, and subscribe to catch the next strike. 7:34 local time. The blackout still lingers when the next wave slams onto the screens. Dozens of fast tracks, diving and weaving. Close range, 30 miles and closing fast. The CIC shakes with urgency. This is knife fight distance. SM-6 interceptors fire one last volley, streaking upward. Explosions ripple, but more missiles punch through. CIWS to full auto, the captain commands. The ship braces for impact as magazines cycle hot. On the deck, sailors duck as the phalanx cannons scream to life. Tracer lines rake the horizon, orange threads tearing into the night. One incoming detonates, then another. The air tastes of cordite. The deck thrums with recoil. Shrapnel patters across steel. But they keep coming. A missile punches lower, skimming sea spray. A growler jams frantically, trying to nudge its seeker off. At the last second, a burst of cannon fire shreds it, the wreck tumbling into the water in flames. Damage control teams stand ready. The carrier heals again. F-35 seconds, drop flares and dive after radar cues. Their sensors spotting new targets. They launch air-to-air intercepts, thinning the pack. But every kill costs fuel and time. Tankers edge closer. The escorts tighten formation. Australian and British frigates blaze away. SM-2 seconds leaping skyward. One frigate nearly takes a hit. The missile veers at the last instant, fooled by a decoy. The crew exhales, but no one relaxes. Then the hardest moment. One leaker left, screaming at Mach speed, arrowing straight for the carrier's bow. CIWS spits a storm of rounds. The CIC holds its breath. One explosion, then another, until finally the radar echo disappears. The crew erupts in shouts, adrenaline masking fear. Spray showers the deck. The horizon falls silent. No more tracks. For now, the strike group still floats, intact. Yet everyone knows the margin was razor thin. Survival bought with every missile fired, every gun run made. They lived by a thread. If you were standing in that CIC, would you call it proof of US dominance or just luck against numbers? Hit 1 if you think the defenses showed real power, or 9 if you think sheer volume will always break through, and subscribe so you're ready for the next clash. Result: the strike group survives. Deck wet, guns hot, crews exhausted, but the sea lanes stay open. The price is clear: missiles expended, fuel burned, and a hard lesson: electronic warfare can bend a battle without a hull-to-hull hit. For Washington and partners, the message cuts two ways. Strength works, layered defense, disciplined teams, allies firing as one still hold. Yet vulnerabilities glare back. Spectrum attacks narrowed vision, data links hiccuped, and saturation nearly cracked the wall. Deterrence lives, but it strains. Australia and the UK walk taller, their crews held under fire. Japan and the Philippines push for tighter patrols, quicker warning, more time on station. Across ASEAN, the debate sharpens, few want to choose sides. All want ships safe and trade steady. Insurers listen. Markets feel the tremor. Underwriters nudge premiums for South China Sea runs. Shippers add buffers and alternate ports. One scare at sea ripples inland. Containers slip a week, orders slip a quarter, chip fabs count hours and rewrite forecasts. Trading value is huge. Talisman Sabre 25, the biggest yet forced real-time adaptation across air, sea, cyber, and undersea. Crews practiced MCON under fire, fused stealth sensors through jamming, and trusted a submarine's ear when radar went dark. After-action notes, more passive tracking, Better link timing, quicker handoffs. Follow-up is sketched. Denser patrols, tougher networks, funds for Guam and Darwin, and a surge in spectrum tools, decoys, passive emitters, smarter jammers, hardened comms. AIM. Stop the next blind spot, so the first warning isn't the first impact. Tonight, USS George Washington held fast. The horizon is quiet again. But what if the next attack pairs cyber strikes with DF-21D, divided by DF-26 shots timed to the second? That's the edge we'll walk next episode. Before you go, who won this round alliances holding the sea? Or A2 divided by AD, grinding them down? Tap 1 if deterrence worked, 9 if the missile net has the edge, and subscribe so you don't miss the rematch.